let's look at how to put a lifeline in your knitting. Here I have a little piece of a circular shawl I'm working on, and I've gotten to a part where I like how it looks. I have no mistakes that I can find, and I want to put a lifeline in so I can protect this knitting later if I have to rip out something I mess up after this part. So I've already knit the first stitch of my round because I don't want my marker to fall off. There's no reason for that other than that. I always finish a round by doing the first stitch of the next round so my end of round marker stays on. This is what I'm going to use for my lifeline. I have a tapestry needle with some yarn that's thinner than what I'm working with and a nice contrasting color. A lot of times I'll use a piece of cotton embroidery floss or dental floss, something that's smooth that's going to pull out really easy when I'm done, because this doesn't stay in the finished knitting. It's just a protection and a security blanket while you are still working on the piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this tapestry needle and I'm going to pull this lifeline yarn through all the stitches all the way around the needle, and that's all there is to it. I just go through each stitch on the needle. I just want to get up to my next marker so I can show you what to do there, because that's very important. I like to do this on a plain round, so you'll notice here I've already worked around after my yarn over, so I'm just catching plain stitches here. I think it's easier, but if you're doing something that you have lace or fancy work on every round, it's okay to do it on one of those rounds as well. Now the important part is not to run the lifeline through your markers. If you do, the markers will get locked onto this row of the knitting where the lifeline thread is, and you'll have to cut the lifeline in order to keep knitting the next round. So just go ahead and instead of going through the marker, just bypass the marker by going on top of it. So you can see there my lifeline thread does not go through the marker. So hold on just a second while I finish going all the way around my piece, and I'll show you what to do on the following round of knitting. Here I am back to the beginning of the round with my lifeline pulled all the way through, and I can take the needle out. If you want to, if you're worried that your lifeline might come out, you can knot the ends together or tie a bow. I usually do that, then I don't have to worry about it. So there's my lifeline, and you can see if you look closely here that it goes through all the stitches on the needle. So now I'm ready to go ahead and continue my next round. Then just push that lifeline out of the way, and the main thing you want to do is try to not knit it into the stitches. So as I knit along here, I'm just going to watch what I'm doing and be careful not to catch that in with my stitch. If I do accidentally knit the lifeline together with the stitch like I just did there, it's not the end of the world, because later when I'm pulling my lifeline out, if it gets a little stuck, I can just snip that with a scissor. So don't panic over that, but it is easier to deal with if you knit the first round after the lifeline carefully and try not to catch it in the stitches. And that's really all there is to it. Then that's in there as if it were the cable of a needle, and you can then rip out later and it will stop right there. All your stitches are neatly lined up. Even if I go back here a few stitches and just take them out, I can show you there. See, my stitches are all on that thread, neatly lined up and ready for me to put my needle back into to continue knitting if I were to have a mistake later on that I had to unravel. If you have trouble getting these back on your needle later, you can use a smaller needle to put them on and then continue knitting with the needle that's the correct size for your project. So that's all it is about when it says to place a lifeline.